Twins sweep a doubleheader. Simeon Woods-Richardson pitches absolutely tremendously in the nightcap. But Joe Ryan was pretty good himself in the opener. The Twins, though, do a tremendous job to knock down the Tigers and get the W. This is a Locked On Twins POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, and welcome back to your Locked On Twins POSTCAST. I am your host, Brandon Warne, and you can unfollow me on Twitter at Brandon_WARNE. And joining me is a new friend, at least from my standpoint, Mr. Theo Tollefson. You can follow him on Twitter while you're unfollowing me at Theodore Tollef, TOLLEF1. Theodore, how are we doing?
I'm doing all right, Brandon. How are you?
Not bad. You can probably hear my printer going off in the background because I forgot to print off my run sheet. So very prepared production over here. But I digress. A wonderful slate or a pair of games for the Twins in this lovely afternoon. Much nicer in Detroit than it's been the last couple days. We'll get to that in just a moment. Thank you for making Locked On Twins and the POSTCAST your first listen every day. Make sure you're listening to the POSTCAST, usually with either Sam Ekstrom, Luke Inman, or some cast of characters like me and Theodore here. We love to hear from you. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching on YouTube, hey, how's it going? We're actually a live show when we do these. So maybe should have told you that so you don't have a Burt Blyleven moment. Feel free to be active in the comments, and we'll put your comments on the screen if they're good enough, which I believe in you. I believe in the listeners. Today's POSTCAST, easy for me to say, is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Yeah, don't have to be much of a gambler to use that offer. So make sure you check that out again, FanDuel.com/lockedon. Twins. What a vibe change in that, I guess basically starting with the Jeffers homer off Shelby Miller. Shelby Miller had not given up a home run since giving up one to the Yankees back on June 3rd. It was 19 straight scoreless appearances. And Jeffers steps up, pinch hit, bomb, ties the game, and the rest is history. What did you see? Because I tried to stay away from Twitter today. I don't know, maybe you did too. But as far as like the feeling or the flow of fan misery to joy when Jeffers hit that homer and then the Twins won that game.
I mean, it just showed they had a little bit of fight left in them. It's still very early in the season, 12 games. There's still 150 games left to play here. That home run definitely was a vibe changer. I think what really set it apart was in the later innings, and we'll probably get to this later, but scoring 3 runs on 1 error and the infield really was what shifted the momentum. It was a little bit back and forth, but being dominated by old friend Kenta Maeda, that was a little bit of a downer. But on the upside of that, Joe Ryan set a career high in strikeouts in the game with 12 through 6 innings. Really got that through 5, but he completed 6 innings in the afternoon, and he made it to 400 career strikeouts while doing it.
Nice. Yeah, I thought Joe Ryan had a chance at a couple innings. I don't know if they would have been immaculate, but they would have been close to it. He had a couple really good innings where he basically had Tigers hitters eating out of the palm of his hand, and it was just a shame that Canna homer, or sorry, not Canna homered in the game, the first game. It was Kerry Carpenter. Yeah, it was a shame that home run looked like it might be the difference until the Twins came through. Also, the difference was a misplay or some kind of weird play in left field. I was listening on my way back and forth from my in-laws' house. We went over there a couple times today. I don't know what exactly happened with Margot on that play. Was it a play he should have made?
I mean, he was close to the foul line, made a diving into catch, and he had it bounce off him when it was in fair territory, and then it went into foul territory. And that's pretty much what was, I think, the one thing like, oh my God, here we go again when you're on Twitter and seeing everything. But again, they were able to bounce back, tie the game up, and recover from such a blunder in the outfield. And Margot has played the least amount of time in the outfield, in left field, center field, right field, or where you typically more see him. So left field I guess, to put it fairly, is where he is least comfortable when he's in the outfield.
So what I told Dave Brown on the regular Locked On Twins was that I felt like the Pablo and Tariq matchup would swing on a play late. Like the teams would play similar baseball and there'd be either a mistake or a great play or something. I felt like I was maybe a game early on that prediction, and I thought, man alive, that's how it's going to go. And then the Twins there was a stretch. I'm trying to think of when it was. I think it was the 8th inning when, no, it would have been the 7th inning. I don't know, why am I remembering this wrong? There was a strikeout where Miranda stole second, and Willie Castro took a pitch that was just like perfect. Like it wasn't perfect, but it was close. And if you've got to get running, it's 3-2. You've got to not necessarily protect him, but you have to protect the plate. You got to play the game,
right?
No, it wasn't Miranda. It was Miranda who did like kind of a what do you call those? Like a pop-up slide, but with his hand, like kind of a hooked his arm around slide. So I felt as though the Twins just had some lapses there where it was like, are you guys even playing the fundamentals? It was just very, very frustrating. And so for the Twins not only to win, but win big in that game, just shocking, honestly, just shocking. Then it was the 9th inning, and then they pinch ran Buxton, and then Vasquez hits the first pitch lazily to right. And I'm like,
yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Just basic fundamentals they're looking very rusty on that they can't really come together with. And that's, I think, a common occurrence we saw a lot last year, but more at the plate than on the base paths. And it has been frustrating that up until the later innings of the game. Now, I know Aaron Gleeman had a tweet on how they were doing against starting pitchers through the first game of this doubleheader. I haven't checked to see if he updated the stats, but they had starting pitchers against the Twins lineup through those first 11, 12 games had been a 1.72 ERA against Twins hitters, which is not a very good place to be in a 12-game stretch, especially when you're facing divisional opponents who are getting the better of you so far between Cleveland, Detroit, and Kansas City, at least for one game.
Well, I can pull up to the minute data for Twins hitters against starting pitchers. A 554 OPS. That's through 13 games. So that includes both games of the double dip today. Twins 6 and 7. First doubleheader sweep since September 4th, 2020. Those were 7-inning games against Detroit. Last sweep of a regular duration was September of 2019 in Cleveland. And if you remember correctly, and I know that you and I were talking about it off the air, but I remembered it correctly, that was the game where Miguel Sano hit that insane grand slam off Nick Goody that more or less sunk the dagger in the hearts of the Cleveland faithful, gave the Twins, I think, a 5.5 game lead in September. And, the rest was history. Bomba Squad made the playoffs and then do what they did, which was getting dumped by the Yankees. But I want to talk about a couple things here. How about the swing between, if the Twins win both games like they did, they're 6 and 7. If they lose both of those games, they're 4 and 9. And one thing that I thought about was in that first game, it was going to be especially frustrating if they played, let's say, 11 innings, 10 innings, and Detroit had chances to tie the game, take the lead. Alcala wiggled out of danger, and who else did? Brock Stewart had, I think Alcala was the one who wiggled out of the most danger.
Yes.
And so if the Twins lose that game, not only do you lose that game, which is bad enough already, but you've used up Okert, who's one of their better relievers. You don't have to love him. But then Jax and Stewart and possibly, multiple innings of Alcala, who's definitely not pitching twice in the same day. To not only use up all your best relievers and lose, I feel like that would have been the Twins season in a nutshell.
Could have been. That could have been the worst loss of the season. But in this case, it didn't end up being that way, and it worked into their favor. And at the same time, Detroit was burning through their bullpen as well, trying to keep their arms fresh. And they ended up throwing in a position player with Zach McKinstry to finish out the game on their side in game 1. So fortunately for them, the opponent that within the division, a lot of people have predicted that will be closest to them in the division title, Detroit. They showed they still have a lot of growth to get to where they could be a contending team, which at this point, they are not looking like a team that could even contend for that third wildcard spot, especially with stronger divisions in the AL East and AL West.
I want to come back to that last inning, the top of the 12th, because the sequence of events that led to McKinstry pitching are pretty hysterical. We'll also come back. We will talk about King Kenta and how he handled the Twins today, which was much better than I think we all expected. But first, a word from our friends over at Gametime. All right, if you're looking for tickets, if it's a tough get and you're looking for good seats or just any seats to get you in the building, Gametime is the place to go. Download the Gametime app, or if you're on a web browser, gametime.co, that's .co, like the old days of the Oakland Coliseum.co. So if you're looking for tickets in the Twin Cities, like where I'm at, you just put you find your market, and then it will show you shows, concerts, sports games, anything you can imagine that you need tickets for. Gametime is the place to be. And it's not just because they have tickets, but it's how they have them. They have the lowest price guarantee. They've got a really great coverage for if you have issues with a cancellation or something like that. It's the most flexible customer service policy in the game. And the lowest price guarantee, if you find tickets elsewhere for cheaper in the same section and row, Gametime won't only credit you the difference, but 110% of the difference. You can see your panoramic seat view from wherever you are. So you're going to know if you have one of those goofy obstructed view seats like they used to have in Old Tiger Stadium or Fenway Park. And you get all-in pricing. You can toggle the bar, the lever, the whatever you want to call it. And then you don't get that bait and switch at the end where you think you're paying $20 and then after fees, it's $45. You know up front right away how much you're paying. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. For a limited time, all users can get $20 off any MLB purchase of $150 or more in the Gametime app with code FIRSTPITCH. Terms apply. That's code FIRSTPITCH, FIRSTPITCH, for $20 off from March 25th to April 14th only. So you got to get there before the end of the weekend. Line up your schedule, figure it out, and get on board with this deal. Download the Gametime app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Theo, we are here. I don't know if I can call you Theo. Do you prefer Theo?
No, you can.
Okay.
No, you know what I don't prefer when we don't need to say
yes,
it. So.
We don't. Yeah, you know what? We can leave things. Some things better left unsaid.
Unsaid, yes. So Theo's fine.
You got it. Twins, not much going on against Kenta. Now Kenta comes into the game with some pretty iffy numbers, and not only that, but he pitched against the White Sox and the A's. So you're thinking this is the ultimate get-right game for the Twins offense. And at the same time, 6 swinging strikes and 87 pitches, not overpowering. But the Twins had just 4 hard-hit balls. By comparison, the next 2 relievers they faced, Tyler Holton and Shelby Miller, they had 3 hard-hit balls against those guys in just that short period. How frustrated were you watching the Twins take their rips against Kenta?
Well, I said jokingly watching the game with my dad at the start, they're facing someone they've, had a lot of simulated games and batting practice off of in spring training. This shouldn't be too much of a challenge, but it was. I mean, in his last start, he walked 4 A's batter, and he walked 0 here tonight. Well, this afternoon, I should say. We're recording this in the evening. And they just showed more of their consistent struggles of not being able to hit the ball, or if they are hitting the ball well, it's right into the teeth of the defense. And that has to be frustrating with Twins fans being very familiar with how he is, a guy who's recovering from Tommy John in year 2 of that in his, 36 season.
He was born in
36. So 36 or 37, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, certainly not young, but don't call him old because that's my era too. So just be careful.
No, it's not. It's old for baseball, but not old in life.
Right, exactly.
That's where I'm getting at.
Well, Joe, we can't talk about Kenta without talking about Joe Ryan, though. I mean, it felt like one of those hard luck losses that I think maybe Sonny Gray had more of last year.
Oh yeah.
Joe Ryan's had some of those. But it was he seemed to, outside of that home run, have he was putting the ball where he wanted to, mixing, matching, cutting, diving, all that stuff that he has tried to do. The fastball velo wasn't quite what it was last time out. I think I saw it was down like 0.7 of a mile per hour, and he was a little slower. with his slider. But again, a lot of that can be either environmental, it can be, different amount of days off with the off days and all that weird stuff. And sometimes it's just the human condition of pitching. But I thought Joe Ryan was about as good as I've seen him. 20 swinging strikes on 96 pitches. I think the league average on 100 pitches is like 10 or 12 because that's your whiff rate.
Yep.
Your whiff rate on FanGraphs, I should add. But 12 strikeouts in 6 innings. I'm not certain I've seen him better than that. Do you think you have?
Not off the top of my head. I think we've definitely seen some phenomenal starts from him. Oh, I would say his complete game against Boston.
Yeah, I mean, okay,
that's the one that really stands out as his best performance so far. But everything that happened after that, it's hard for that not to come to mind first, thinking of who he was in the second half of last season and playing through injury. So that was definitely better than the Cleveland start, not that they had this last Saturday, where he had the same exact results. He gave up a home run. That was the difference in the game, but the offense did not catch up to give him the win, but he still kept in and threw a quality start. And that's exactly what happened here today. But up until that 6th inning, everything 1 through 5, and that Gary Carpenter home run was just in his favor. No one was making contact on stuff. I thought there was a good chance he could have struck out more if, he wasn't looking as gassed as he was in the 6th inning, but still sets a new career high for strikeouts in a game at 12 through 6 innings. So if we get later in the summer and things are working really well for him, especially in lower humidity, because I did a piece, I think, last season for zone coverage that broke down how humidity was not helping him out.
Probably not.
Especially with an injury, no. But yeah, that's his best start of the season so far, and I'm definitely looking forward to him trying to build off that and have greater success against divisional opponents. And I think Royals are the team he's had the most success against in the division, so that's definitely where he's going to see it here.
I want to talk about the humorous sequence of events. I kind of teased this in the last heading into break. So in the 12th inning, Alex Lang comes in. I like Alex Lang. I like the repertoire. I like the stuff, but the walks, man, the walks will kill you. And you can't have walks as a reliever. You can't have walks as a high leverage reliever. You can't have walks in extras when you have guys already on base. He walks Willie Castro, who is basically the unwalkable, maybe not quite. Vasquez bunts, but gets on because a whole snowball fight breaks loose. I get the idea of trying to get the lead runner, but man, they're giving you an out. You got to take it. And so
the lead runner is Buxton. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, exactly. So not really knowing the situation. I think that would have been Torkelson throwing over. It's a, righty's got to turn to make that throw. Probably not the best idea. Martin walks. Then the Twins do what they do. They strike out looking. And then Ryan Jeffers hits. This was an absolute marathon of a plate appearance. 11 pitches before he comes back with a curveball. So he'd gone, bear with me here, curve, sinker, curve, sinker, curve, sinker, curve, sinker, 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 curve. That is not Morse code. That is not me trying to punch a code in to get into some vault. Just an incredible sequence there where Jeffers fouls everything off. Lang's actually throwing strikes too, which is a pleasant change for him. And then he tries to drop a curve in there. Jeffers peppers it down the line, and Zach McKinstry, who I believe I heard was a finalist for a Gold Glove last year, basically Buckners it.
Yeah.
And 3 runs come in, but that's where it gets funny. Out comes AJ Hinch, and he's going to the bullpen, except not exactly the bullpen. He's going to third base and bringing McKinstry over. I don't think that was a punishment, but the optics are pretty hysterical, don't you think?
Oh, it's hysterical if you're the guy who makes the worst play on the field, and then next batter on, you got to take the reliever out and put a new guy in. You throw in the guy who just made the error. Now, I think McKinstry's their go-to position player reliever once it comes to those blowout games, which I know MLB enforced that new rule of it's 6 or 7 or more runs by a lead, then you can throw a position player in to save bullpen arms. But I'm not a fan of the position player being on the mound unless it's Shohei Ohtani, or in Sunday's case in Anaheim between the Angels and Red Sox, old friend Miguel Sano got that opportunity. That was just funny. Had to bring that up.
Yeah, Michael Lorenzen. That was a good callback. I forgot. Easy to forget. The Angels have been utterly forgettable in recent years, as has Miguel Sano. But good for him for making that team. Let's take a quick second, give some love to FanDuel, and then when we come back, we got a whole nother game to talk about. So we'll do that really quickly before we get out of here. But again, first, a word from FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. It's $150 in bonus bets, whether you win or lose. Doesn't matter if you put money down on the Twins or Tigers today, you still get the $150. It's the biggest no-brainer in history. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. Whether you want to do the Wolves' final regular season game here coming up or the postseason, because the stakes are going to be very high. And it's a lot of fun to watch playoff basketball. But if you want to put another little bit of an edge on it, put some money down. That's the way to go. FanDuel is the place to do it. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. So, Theo, I got to ask you, where maybe it's not fair to say better, but did you have Simeon Woods Richardson pitches as well as Joe Ryan on your script for today? Because I'm looking at mine. And, no, I don't have it.
I know. Well, the thing was his last start with the St. Paul Saints, and that was in Nashville against the Brewers AAA affiliate, I believe, on Sunday. That was not a good start for him at all. He had a great first start, no walks allowed on the season. But, with these AAA games, you're playing 6 games a week against the same team just to condense on the travel schedule for all of them, which is good in that case. But when you're a starting pitcher in AAA right now, you're going to have the opportunity to face a team twice in one homestand or road trip, and that is not always going to be the best thing, as we saw with Woods Richardson. So I didn't know what we were going to expect from him, but to see him do exactly what the Twins needed and throw 6 innings, only throw 80-some pitches, keep his arm well content, and just look a lot better than the sample size that they got at the end of 2022 when they were out of playoff contention and just throwing arms up there to have up there.
Yeah, so Nashville Sounds on Sunday. For a second straight, as you said, 3 1/3, 7 earned, 7 hits, 4 strikeouts and 2 walks. So he had 4 strikeouts and 2 walks the first time around, which was 5 innings of shutout ball with 3 hits scattered. So yeah, it was not particularly a guarantee that he was going to outpitch Matt Manning today. Matt Manning didn't do a terrible job by any means, and in fact, as far as guys who didn't make an opening day rotation but are stepping in to make a start like this, you can do a lot worse than Matt Manning. Just the home run ball bit him. Edouard Julien doing the opposite field thing that he's doing now for some reason. I love it. I love to see it.
I would like to see him hit home runs with more guys on base, but that's not entirely on him.
Yeah, have they all been solo? I think all 4 have been solo. And then Willie Castro revenge game with a big homer off Matt Manning. That had to feel good for Willie.
He needed that and gets his
Did
first
you
home run
hear the person who made it through I don't know where the closest field mic is, but someone said, "You suck, Castro," and then he hit the homer right after.
I did not hear that. No, I didn't catch that part, but I am. I don't know what it is, but a lot of the field mics are picking up a lot more sound this season than I think ever before. But maybe I'm just paying closer attention to it since I just left a job in TV. But who knows?
Yeah, I don't know though. I mean, I think it makes the game more fun, but I'm not exactly sure it's as family friendly. But yeah, Twins basically just had a much more complete game in this one. I just thought SWR was so dang good. And let's give some love to Cole Sands. Is this looks like a new Cole Sands? And I'm thinking he could make it difficult to send him back when Josh Stalmont's healthy, Caleb Thielbar's healthy, Joan Duran is healthy. Again, on the regular Locked On Twins, Dave and I did a list of all the guys that I thought were in play for this bullpen if things were to happen. Guys with big league experience, all the way down to Jeff Brigham, Matt Bowman, who was actually called up today. And it ran 20-something deep. And then the Twins right away are down at number 10, 11, 12, 13. Cole Sands is going to make this a really tough decision.
No doubt. I mean, he has definitely shown his maturity, his growth from his spot spots as a long reliever with these last 2 seasons. I mean, being a spot starter in 2022 and having to face down the Yankees was never going to be in his favor. He got crushed in that game. I just remember being there and watching that, and I was like, feel bad
Yeah.
for the kid. But now he's really fitted himself into that long relief role, which I think in the last couple of seasons with all these young arms that have come up that were kind of starter, kind of reliever, but didn't have that full home yet. I anticipate Josh Winder to be where Cole Sands at now, but that's not the case. And with Matt Bowman being called up, I think he's the first to go back down to St. Paul and get removed from the 40-man once Caleb Thielbar is activated from his rehab assignment. I think they're still going to keep Josh Johmont down in St. Paul just to give him more
ramp up,
both ramp up and just like alleviation on, being put in crucial situations in a relief, especially considering that AAA games, at least the ones I've attended covering the Saints, have looked pretty similar to last season, where it's very offense heavy and not too much pitching heavy. There have been some good pitching duels, but I think that would be the place to leave him. So having Cole Sands be that dependable long reliever, but also Cody Funderburk, who you would think might be sent down in favor of Thielbar, but honestly, with how things are going right now, you just want the best 8 guys in your bullpen, and Cole Sands and Cody Funderburk are both 2 of those best 8 guys in that bullpen, and you can't afford to send them down until someone else comes back, like a Juwan Duran.
Yeah. Do you think Sands could be the new Griffin Jacks? Because the Twins have had a history of taking starters who had, iffy numbers and making them into good relievers. I mean, look no further than the broadcast booth today. Glenn Perkins is one who went from like a solid starter to he was a nasty closer. And I'm not saying Sands has to be anything more than he's been so far this year, but this bullpen, I'm just a big fan of where it's going. And if they keep doing things like this, you still got Josh Winder if he ever gets healthy, Brent Hedrick. They've got some guys that you don't necessarily need to rely on, but could pop up and certainly be helpful.
Yeah, I think with how Cole Sands is doing, though, you can take your time to figure out what you want to do with Hedrick or Josh Winder with the St. Paul Saints. I mean, Hedrick got landed on the IL for Saints earlier this week, retroactive to his last start with them in Nashville. So their rotation and bullpen is just as depleted as the Twins, and the fact that we have guys stepping up with the Twins right now is making things a lot easier on the organization as a whole, and you don't have to rush up anyone from Double-A, so to say, to fill those roles.
Yeah, it's not great to have one healthy pitcher on your 40-man roster who's not in the big leagues, because then days like today, you have to call that guy up and use him. Like, there's nowhere to go from here unless you put someone else on the 60. You want to be very careful with Royce on that respect, because any days fewer than 60 that you can get him back, you are itching at doing that. So it's going to be curious to see how they will navigate that. They will have, they have the 40-man spot that they vacated when they DFA'd Tonkin, which Bowman took. And no offense to Bowman, but he was probably protection for the doubleheader. Eventually he'll get shipped out. So we'll see what happens there. They've got a lot of options, a lot of guys who they can go to. Jeff Brigham is hurt down there. Hedrick is hurt down there. It's no shortage of guys who could have helped this team. And even Michael Hellman went on the IL today too. He would have been a reasonable call up if they had a 40-man spot for him. I think maybe you call up Bowman for the doubleheader, the DFA Bowman, and bring up Hellman if he's healthy for another body. I don't know if they would have done that. I don't know if that would have been a priority, but it's just funny how, we go through the off season and we write out our neat little 26-man rosters and we try to, oh man, how are they going to find room for this guy? And all of a sudden Austin Martin's playing every single game, and none of us saw that coming at all.
I mean, I thought the opportunity would be coming for him in a couple months and not this early in the season. I think that's definitely what happened with a lot of these guys. I mean, Camargo was the only guy on the entire bench that didn't get into either of these games. And some people were speculating as far as Emmanuel Rodriguez would be rushed up, but I was like, there's no way that's going to happen, because at least in calling up Camargo, you have Vasquez who can, he can be a body out there. He's not going to be the best defender at second base, at third base, or at first base, but he's someone who can play there, who's competent enough, and you're going to have a better chance than if you rush up a Junior Severino, who is, I think, only got 3, maybe 4 hits and like 15 strikeouts, or Emmanuel Rodriguez, who as great as a start as he's having at AA, he just arrived at AA, and that's still the hardest jump to make in the minors from high A to AA. So give him time. Do not rush his process.
Yeah, they've had some success with guys like that. Jorge Polanco came up after being on the 40 and not being in the minors, high level minors for very long. I think it was 2014 in Texas.
Yeah, that's correct.
Had
Yeah,
a triple in the first game, and it was kind of off to the races. Not, I guess, literally, but yeah. All in all, a really positive day. How much would it temper your enthusiasm before we go here if tomorrow is a loss? You split with Detroit. If that happens, it's still a team you're competing with who is better than they were last year. And 3 or 4 would be obviously very nice. But I'm not going to go all doom and gloom if the Twins drop this one. It's Bailey, Ober, and I'm just pulling up because I forgot now who's pitching.
Yeah.
Ober and Flaherty, Jack Flaherty, who's been
that's correct.
Hot and cold. So we'll see what happens there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I don't think I'm going to live or die on that. I think you need to try to win that one. I mean, obviously you need to try to win every game, but that's not going to happen in baseball. But that's definitely a crucial one to win before you go off and face the Orioles, even though they are not having the best weekend series against the Milwaukee Brewers. But to have 3 or 4 up against Detroit before you come back home to face them once more. And then you'll have the easiest series of the season so far, at least on paper, against the Chicago White Sox for, I think that's 3-game series at home. Yeah. So you want to try to get as many as possible before you get to the White Sox and the Orioles, but I don't think I'm going to feel all too detrimental if they drop another one to Detroit tomorrow.
Last 10 games of the month, actually, last 9 and then first game of May is Chicago, 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 Angels, 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 Chicago, Chicago, Chicago. That's a 10-game stretch where you should be able to make up some ground. So, with that said, Theo, thank you so much. This is Brandon Warne saying also thanks to everyone for hanging out. This has been a Locked On Twins postcast, and we'll catch you on the flip side.